I'm Brittany. This is, oh my god. I can't, I'm blanking. I'm blanking and I love him. Do you understand how much I love him? Hua Chung! Oh my god! What a great start to the stream. I'm Brittany. This is Hua Chung. And, welcome to Gaywatch, where we watch gay things. Holy crap. Okay. So, we are reading Husky and His White Cat Shuzin. We are in volume 1. We are on page 175 for chapter 16, which is called The Venerable One is Stunned. We had some illusions in the previous stream. We had some weddings in the previous stream. Some shit's already been going down. And it's only volume 1, so who knows? Who can say? We're just going to dive right in. We usually read for a couple of hours. I usually take a break a little around halfway through. Not for very long. I try to keep that as short as I can. And I think that's about it. I think we can just kind of dive in today, which is a little fantastic. We try to get anywhere from 40 to 50 pages, but I try to hit 50 whenever possible. So, Moran really couldn't be blamed for being so bestial. I can, however, be blamed for having my headphones on for absolutely no reason. You know what the truth is? The truth is that I was listening to a pronunciation guide that was provided to me by a very, very kind patron on the Discord. And I was listening to that as a refresher immediately beforehand, as opposed to just whenever I'm off stream. I was listening to that immediately before hitting going live, and I did not take the headphones off. So anyway, this is gonna be a really calm, sane, and put together stream, as you can already tell. Anyway, Moran really couldn't be blamed for being so bestial. Trapped in a tight space with someone you'd gone to bed with countless times, regardless of whether it was heartfelt or feigned, out of revenge or fondness, and inhaling their familiar scent, anyone's thoughts would waver in a situation like that. Besides, Moran was a reprobate to begin with. Okay, we already have new information. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I assumed that the thing that shall not be named happened once. And I don't know why. That's my own damn fault. I don't know why my brain went there. It just did. And apparently I'm incorrect. So we're just gonna stow that away for future reference. Shime was his moonlight. Moran, oh my god. Never mind, keeping it together. Moran didn't have the heart to touch him. He couldn't risk ruining him. But he had no such qualms about wrecking Chu Wanning. Upon Chu Wanning, he could without restraint vent all of his immoralities, feral desires, and bone-deep savagery. Why? I have so many questions. He could grind this person into dust, pin him down, tear him apart, run him through, subject him to everything that he would never even think of doing to Shumei. Fuck. What? I'm okay. In the past life, every time he'd seen Chu Wanning with his head thrown back, neck bared, and the jut of his throat bobbing, Moran had felt like he might lose himself and turn into a bloodthirsty beast, had been consumed by his desire to rip open Chu Wanning's throat, guzzle his blood, crush his bones. He didn't care for Chu Wanning, and so he held nothing back. Has this man really split romantic attachment and sexual desire this hard And like he's fine with being romantically attracted to Shumei, but the level to which he is physically attracted to Chu Wanning, interesting. I can't quite remember if they've mentioned any of his conquests outside of them. I think they have, but I can't remember how specific they got. Like, does this carry over anywhere? I think they mentioned that he had. I'm still trying to get a read on exactly what what Moran's deal is when it comes to his sexuality and how that presents itself and his own feelings about his sexuality. So I just also, he didn't care for Chu Wanning. Okay. All right. Eventually, Moran's body had even developed an ingrained response from all the defiling he had done. A mere whiff of Chu Wanning's scent would light a fire in his abdomen and make his heart itch. Doesn't care about him, though. No feelings whatsoever. Make him want to tie Chu Wanning down to a bed to fuck. In the silence of the coffin, Moran's frenzied heartbeats were audible. He knew that Chu Wanning's face was somewhere close because he could feel his breaths. If he were to lunge forward with a bite now, Chu Wanning would be unable to get away. But never mind. That is the most frustrating ellipsis I've ever seen in my entire life. What? Never mind? What do you mean? You can't just... But? There's a but there. Do we get to find out what the but is? Not right now. Oh, that's rude. That is deeply, deeply rude. Moran shuffled backward, away from Chu Wanning, though not without much difficulty, as the coffin really was cramped. Sorry about that, Shizun. Moran laughed awkwardly. Didn't expect the coffin to shake. As he was speaking, the coffin tilted again. Moran rolled into Chu Wanning's arms once more. Chu Wanning did not deign to respond. Moran shuffled backward a second time, and again the coffin lurched. This repeated over and over. Did I get cursed or what? Moran scurried back yet again. The Golden Boy and Jade Maiden were probably going up a slope. It was too slippery inside the coffin, and before long, Moran once more rolled helplessly into Chu Wanning. Shizun. Moran bit his lip, putting on a pitiful air. This fellow had been born with endearing looks. If he put his mind to it, he could hide his wolf tail and put on a convincing puppy dog act. Chu Wanning said nothing. Moran really didn't want to get rolled around anymore, so he simply gave up fighting it altogether. I'm really not doing it on purpose. Still nothing. The wounds on my back hurt from hitting the wall, Moran continued in a small voice. In the darkness, Chu Wanning seemed to sigh softly, though with the incessantly loud gongs and drums outside, Moran couldn't be sure if he'd heard right. But in the next moment, the scent of Haitang flowers grew stronger as Chu Wanning placed his hand behind Moran's back, blocking the gap so that Moran wouldn't bump into it again. It wasn't quite a hug. Chu Wanning held his arm at a distance and made sure not to make contact with Moran's body, other than his clothes dripping over him, but the position was still a bit intimate. Be careful. Don't hit it again. Chu Wanning's voice was deep, like porcelain submerged in a creek, steady and dignified. An image! Holy shit! Hang on. I'm writing that down. Page 176? Yeah. Wait, am I even right about that? No, 177. Woo! Porcelain submerged in a creek to describe someone's voice. That is stunning. It would have been a striking voice to listen to if one weren't listening to it through a shroud of hatred. every almost every single like description or opinion of Chu Wanning is double-edged in that way. Like, oh, he would have a really nice voice. Oh, but I hate him so much. So therefore he doesn't have a nice voice? Like, no, he has a nice voice. But then Moran is just telling himself certain things. He is in a very weird sort of denial when it comes to Chu Wanning. Why? That might be the title of this stream when we're done with it. It might just be why. No one spoke after that. Moran was a growing teenager at this time, and he wasn't as tall as he would be as an adult. At present, in Chu Wanning's arms, his forehead only reached Chu Wanning's chin. This feeling was awfully familiar, yet also awfully unfamiliar. The familiar part was the person lying beside him. The unfamiliar part was the position in which they lay. In their previous lifetime, not so long ago, it had always been Moran lying in Sishang Peaks, Wushan Palace, a lonesome Tishanjun with no one left to turn to, in a darkness so endless that he could hardly breathe, clutching Chu Wanning tightly in his arms. Now is when I feel the need to remind you that I do indeed look and listen to pronunciations. I really do. It's just very bad at settling into my brain. I've probably told you this one too many times, and it's because I'm insecure about it. I'm just going to be straight up with it. I am insecure about it. I'm just doing my best. By then, he'd physically outgrown Chu Wanning and was also stronger than his Shizun. His arms were like clamps, like shackles, latching on to the remaining bit of warmth in his arms, as if holding on to the very last ember of fire in the world. Hang on. We are not going to get through 50 pages at this rate, but hang on. His arms were like clamps, like shackles, latching on to the remaining bit of warmth in his arms, as if holding on to the very last ember of fire in the world. These double-edged descriptions are going to kill me. He would lower his head to kiss Chu Wanning's inky black hair, then lean in close, insatiable, and burrow his face into the crook of Chu Wanning's neck to ruthlessly bite and gnaw. I hate you, Chu Wanning. I really hate you so much. His voice was a little hoarse. But you're all I have left. What the does that mean? Moran was none too gently jolted out of his memories by a series of crashes and bumps. The sound of gongs and drums stopped abruptly, and a deathly silence settled over everything. Shizun. Chu Wanning reached out and pressed a finger to his lips, cautioning him in a low voice, "Don't talk. We're here." Sure enough, there were no more footsteps outside, only silence. Chu Wanning's fingertip lit up with a faint golden light. A quick slash on the coffin wall, and a narrow gap was cut open, just enough for them to peek outside. They had indeed been brought to the outskirts of Butterfly Town. The front of the temple was densely cluttered with coffins. The heavy scent of 100 butterfly fragrance in the air grew heavier still as it drifted through the opening into the coffin. Moran suddenly realized that something was off. Shizun, does it seem like this scent and the one on the illusory realm aren't quite the same as the scent in Chen Gongji's coffin? How so? Moran had a keen sense of smell. Back at the northern mountain, when the coffin first split open, the scent that drifted out was pleasant and didn't cause me any discomfort. That one was almost certainly the 100 butterfly fragrance. But ever since we entered the illusory realm, I felt like the smell, although similar, is somewhat different. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but now I think I know what it is. Chu Wanning turned to look at him. You dislike this smell? Moran remained pressed against the opening, peering outside. I've hated the smell of incense ever since I was little. The scent here and in the illusory realm aren't 100 butterfly fragrance at all, but the scent of the special incense that the people of Butterfly Town burn for the ghost mistress of ceremonies. Look over there. Chu Wan-ning followed Moran's gaze and saw 3 incense sticks, each as thick as a child's arm, standing in the incense burner in front of the temple. Their scent diffused leisurely into the air. The people of Butterfly Town made all kinds of scented products using flowers, and even their incense was locally produced. Since everything was made from the flowers grown around town, the resulting scents were quite similar to people unfamiliar with the art. Could it be that the scent in Chenggong... See, I know and I have heard the correct way to pronounce this word, and my brain hasn't gotten it yet, so I apologize for the bastardization. In Chen Gongji's coffin actually has nothing to do with the one in the illusion. Chu Wan-ning pondered aloud. Before he could finish mulling over this new detail, his thoughts were interrupted by a piercing red light from within the temple. They both looked in that direction to see the light shining resplendent, illuminating the whole area. A row of red lotus lamps used for making wishes sat on a stand at the side of the temple. One by one, they lit up. The ghost children escorting the coffins all knelt at once, chanting, "Mistress of Ceremonies descending, pray guide these lonely souls to escape suffering and find mates so that they may be joined in burial, partnered in the afterlife." The statue of the ghost mistress of ceremonies inside the temple emitted a holy golden light amidst the thundering chant. Then its eyelids lowered, the corner of its lips moved slowly, and it leapt gracefully from the altar. Graceful movement, poised bearing. Unfortunately, the body, made of clay, was much too heavy. The young maiden landed with a thud, smashing a huge crater into the ground. Moran snorted. Chu Wan-ning only stared. The ghost mistress seemed quite dissatisfied with its weight. It stared at the crater for a while before stepping out with slow, deliberate steps as it rearranged its clothing. Its appearance was that of a maiden draped in rich reds, its face painted with makeup and a strand of cypress in its hair. The overall look was quite festive. In the darkness of night it turned its neck one way, then the other, and came to a stop in front of the 100 coffins. The breeze was suffused with the stench of corpse rot. The ghost mistress's mood seemed to improve, and it slowly spread out its arms, letting out a croaking sort of laughter. "All who believe in and worship me shall be granted a partner in marriage to fulfill that which they were denied in life." The delicate voice drifted in the night, and the ghosts and monsters began to prostrate themselves in gratitude. "Mistress of Ceremonies, please impart your blessings. Mistress of Ceremonies, pray bestow marriage upon them." Such pleas came wave after wave. The ghost mistress seemed delighted as it weaved slowly between the rows of coffins, dragging its long scarlet-painted nails along their sides, the shrill sound ear-piercing. "Shizin, I remember you mentioning before that monsters, deities, ghosts, gods, demons, and humans each occupy their own realms. Why is this deity hanging out with the ghosts down here instead of living it up in the ninth heaven upstairs?" Moran wondered. "Because it is in charge of ghost marriages and is sustained by the worship of ghosts," Chu Wan-ning replied. "The ghosts must provide it with immense merits, or it wouldn't have been able to cultivate into a deity in a mere few hundred years. With such an advantageous arrangement, it's naturally glad to keep the company of these underworld friends." The ghost mistress circled the cluster of coffins and returned to the front, at which point its delicate voice rang out once again. "A marriage shall be bestowed upon each coffin opened. Start from the left." Following its command, the first coffin on the left slowly opened, a golden boy and jade maiden bowing respectfully by its side. The corpses within climbed out unsteadily, their faces looking even more deathly pale against the vibrant red of their wedding garments. The couple slowly made their way before the ghost mistress and knelt. The ghost mistress put its hand between them and spoke. "As the mistress of ceremonies, I hereby confer upon thee a posthumous marriage. Henceforth you are husband and wife, male and female, joyous in the joining." Moran rolled his eyes and muttered, "Don't wax poetic if you don't know how to. These wedding vows sound obscene." "You have quite the indecent imagination," Chu Wan-ning said coldly. Moran shut up. But before long, the ghost mistress promptly demonstrated that, in fact, the indecent one here was not Moran, but this deity in charge of ghost marriages. It was as if the pair of newlywed corpses had consumed aphrodisiacs. They were clearly already dead, yet they tore at each other's clothing, kissing and embracing in a frenzied tangle right then and there, shamelessly out in the open in front of everyone. Chu Wanning and Moran were left speechless. As the mistress of ceremonies, I hereby grant thee the joys of the natural order. Yin and yang may mate regardless of life or death. The ghost mistress's shrieking grew increasingly shrill and haughty. The corpse's movements also grew increasingly exaggerated. The male corpse divested himself of clothing and was ridiculously vigorous, no different from a live person. Moran was totally stunned. You can't just fucking do that? That's the end of the chapter. This predicament that they're in just keeps, escalating. Towards a peak, no less. We're on page 183 for chapter 17, which is called This Venerable One's Shizun Got Injured. This venerable one really... ... These ellipses are not going to be good for my mental health. Never mind the trigger warnings, which, by the way, you should be checking in the description if you are at all susceptible in any way, shape, or form. This is gonna be what kills me. It's gonna be the fucking 3 dots. Also, we're headed towards a version of sex pollen that I don't think I've run into recently. And under the right circumstances, I really do appreciate a nice, sex pollen or sex pollen adjacent type of trope. You know what I mean? I don't think I've ever wandered into one exactly like this. What is this ghost mistress even doing, being a mistress of ceremonies? Change your career and sell aphrodisiacs instead. Those were thoughts. That was not said out loud. Yet, I imagine. Other people's aphrodisiacs could at best maybe make a wilted living person show off some male prowess, but these gods and deities were really something else. A slight wave of the hand and even a dead person could get it up. How miraculous. Just as Moran was really getting into the show... You cannot have it both ways, Moran. You cannot be like, what is happening here? Right? Like, one or the other, dude. Pick a lane. Chu Wanning suddenly reached out and covered his ears. Huh? Said Moran. Chu Wanning's expression was frozen over. Don't look at such obscenity. But why are you covering my ears instead of my eyes? Don't look or listen, Chu Wanning said tonelessly. You can close your eyes yourself. Shizun, you're really... Moran snorted. Take a look at your own blushing face. Even your ears are red. You're clearly the one who should be closing their eyes here. Moran couldn't help his amusement. Chu Wanning, who was as frigid as ice and snow, and had never seen so much as a single erotic painting, having to witness a coupling at such close quarters now might just make the man choke to death. The dead couple almost seemed to come alive as they screwed. Even their stiff throats, which shouldn't have been able to produce any noise at all, somehow started making lifelike moaning and panting sounds. Chu Wanning jerked his face away from the sight, too disgusted to continue watching. Moran's amusement only grew. With a mischievous grin and full teasing intention, he reached out to turn Chu Wanning's face back. Chu Wanning flinched away as if stung. What are you doing? Nothing whatsoever. Moran's voice was honey-sweet, with a hint of mockery, as he looked at him. Aren't you too old to be turning red at this kind of thing? Oh, wait. It was more like Chu Wanning's face was turning green and red at the same time. Pretty hilarious, actually. Shizun, don't you teach us to always assess the opponent's capabilities before engaging them? You have to at least look to take the measure of the ghost mistress's capabilities. What's there to see? I'm not looking. Moran sighed. How is your face this thin? Filth and debauchery are harmful to the eyes, Chu Wanning shot back. Guess I'll have to look then. Moran lay there cheekily peering outside and providing a running commentary of ah, wow, awesome, ayo, and so on. Chu Wanning was so furious he was about to explode, and he hissed in a low voice, Look if you want, but don't talk. Moran played innocent. I thought you'd want to know. Chu Wanning finally couldn't take it anymore. Gripping Moran by the neck, he said through gritted teeth, If you make one more sound, I will throw you out there to feed the zombies. Okay. Enough was enough. You really couldn't push Chu Wanning too far unless you wanted a full course from Tianwen, and so Moran showed some discipline and obediently lay there, watching without a sound. As the ghost couple's pleasure peaked, the male corpse let out a low roar and spasmed on top of the female corpse. A wisp of green smoke rose from their bodies, and the ghost mistress opened its mouth, greedily sucking the wisp down until every last tendril of smoke was consumed. It wiped the corner of its mouth with satisfaction, eyes shining. That would be the merit from the ghost marriage couples that increased its cultivation. Having had a taste, the ghost mistress seemed more radiant, and its beaming smile intensified. When it spoke again, its faint, drifting voice had become much clearer. It shouted, bellowed, sharp voice resounding as if it could rip through the endless night. Get up, all you single men and unwed women. I grant you the blessings of intimacy. You shall provide me worship in return. Up, all of you, up. Up in what sense? Moran's heart thumped. Shit. What was it planning to do? The simultaneous shaking of the hundreds of coffins around them confirmed Moran's worst fears. The ghost mistress was going to call on the couples and all the coffins to screw so that it could devour all their merits at once. Well, yeah. She's been saying that she's going to do this with multiple, couples, if not everybody. Y'all should have been deer in the headlights a long time ago. This was no joking matter. Moran pulled at Chu Wanning. Shizun, what is it this time? Oh, we have some pretty good art, actually. Hurry, we have to get out of here. Shimei is trapped with that Chen woman. Moran was beside himself with panic. We have to hurry and save him. Chu Wanning glanced outside. Who would have thought the ghost mistress would have such an appetite, skipping individual pairings to gobble up everything at once? The neighboring coffins shook more and more violently as the ghost marriage couples inside were compelled to do the deed. Chu Wanning choked at the thought, color draining from his face even more than it already had. Just then the beaming ghost mistress seemed to sense something. Its head abruptly twisted, and a pair of pure black, pupilless eyes passed over all the rest to stare directly at Moran and Chu Wanning's coffin. The ghost mistress might not have been smart, but it could feel the absence of familiar venereal energy from that coffin. There was no worship within that coffin. They were alive. Rearing up, the ghost mistress charged forward, shrieking, clothing a flurry behind it, and a pair of blood-red, razor-sharp claws pierced directly through the wood and into the coffin. The attack was too sudden. Moran had no time to dodge or defend. Besides, there was hardly any room for movement inside the coffin to start with. Just as those bony claws were about to add 5 new holes to his head, he was shoved lower. Chu Wanning had swiftly gathered Moran into his arms and covered him with his own body. The ghost mistress's 5 claws sunk viciously into Chu Wanning's shoulder, deep into the bone. I mean, this is rather riveting art. That's painful, but also, what is it? Wait, that's not how I show you guys art. What am I doing? But also, like, I don't know, I'm always a sucker for these moments. I might have a weakness for physical protection. I don't know. Fam. Whew. Chu Wanning bore through it without crying out, letting out only a muted groan. His uninjured hand glowed with a silencing spell as he pressed a finger to Moran's lips, blocking off the sound that he was about to make. The ghost mistress's claws dug into Chu Wanning's flesh, scratching and tearing. It had clay for a head, and it only knew how to distinguish between the living and the dead by sound. Somehow, in this terrible situation, Chu Wanning managed not to make a single peep, even as blood poured from his shoulder. Moran couldn't see the injury from where he was pressed against Chu Wanning's chest, but he could clearly feel Chu Wanning shivering. Alive or dead? There was no way a living person would fail to make a sound after this treatment. The ghost mistress couldn't make sense of things, and her claws in Chu Wanning's shoulder continued to brutally dig and tear. Chu Wanning trembled from the pain, shuddering, his robes drenched in cold sweat. Still, he did not falter. He bit down on his lips as he protected the disciple in his arms, as if he had really become a corpse, and blocked the opening in the coffin like forged metal. At last, the ghost mistress was finally satisfied that the people inside the coffin couldn't possibly be alive, and abruptly retracted its claws. Blood splattered, accompanied by the hair-raising, sickeningly sticky sound of claws sliding against flesh and bone. Oh, thanks. I hate it. Oh, that's great description. Oh, I hate it. Ooh. All at once, the strength drained out of Chu Wanning's tense body. He let go of Moran, panting quietly. The scent of blood inside the coffin was suffocating. Moran lifted his head. By the dim light streaming through the holes, he could see Chu Wanning's lowered eyelashes, and beneath them unshed tears in those silent, stubborn eyes. Those phoenix eyes were blurred with pain, but beneath the layer of tears, his gaze was fierce and headstrong. Okay, he doesn't need to be hot about it. Moran wanted to talk, but Chu Wanning shook his head and maintained the silencing spell on his lips. A while passed before he let out a slow breath and wrote on the back of Moran's hand with a shaky fingertip, "The barrier has been breached. Do not speak." Outside, the ghost mistress tilted its head, confused as to why it couldn't sense any worship from the people within the coffin, who clearly had to be dead, yet were somehow refusing to follow its commands. Chu Wanning raised his head to see the ghost mistress through the crack, a golden light enveloping his uninjured hand as a willow vine appeared, fiery light flowing through it. He narrowed his eyes, Tian Wen in hand, and in the next moment he burst out from the coffin. The casket split apart, and Chu Wanning flew up like lightning. Tian Wen lashed out with perfect accuracy to wrap around the ghost mistress's neck as it let out an ear-piercing screech. "Who are you? How dare you?" Chu Wanning's answer was one word. Scram! King shit. Crimson wedding robes flowed in the air like waves of clouds. He had endured everything to make this one hit count, and Tian Wen wrung with savage brutality, directly snapping the ghost mistress's neck. A dense red mist mixed with the strange, perfumed scent welled out from the entity's severed neck. Chu Wanning drew back rapidly to avoid it, calling out, "Moran! 1,000 strikes!" Moran was waiting at the ready. At the command, he channeled spiritual energy into the hidden blade in his sleeve and directed the strike at the ghost mistress's body, which was groping around for its head. The body of clay cracked open, revealing within it the ghost mistress's true body, translucent and radiating a red light. Chu Wanning raised Tian Wen again and ripped the ghost mistress's celestial spirit right out of it. A scream came from within that headless body. "How dare you! How dare you! Get up! Get up! Kill them! Kill them!" The originally featureless faces of the golden boys and jade maidens were suddenly illuminated with blood-red eyes. Hundreds of them shrieked as they charged toward Moran and Chu Wanning. The coffins on the ground also shattered, one after another, the corpses inside rising and rushing to join the fray. Moran's gaze darted rapidly between those in the crowd, looking for Shimei. "What are you doing, making eyes at zombies?" Chu Wanning said harshly. "Hurry and fend them off." In the chaos of the battle with the ghost mistress, they had ended up standing on a coffin, the slow-moving corpses gathered all around them. Moran lit up a handful of exorcism talismans and threw them forward. Explosion after explosion followed, but there were just too many foes. Each defeated wave was rapidly replaced by the next. Moran was losing his mind. How are there so many dead people in Butterfly Town? Just how many ghost marriage couples are there? Just look at this ghost mistress's cultivation. Of course this many young people couldn't have died of natural causes, Chu Wanning said, aggravated. 8, maybe even 9 out of 10 were probably bewitched to commit suicide. Attack over there. Moran flung another talisman in the direction Chu Wanning indicated. White bone and rotten flesh flew from the resultant explosion. How is this ghost mistress not dead yet? Normal weapons can't hurt it. Then what about Tianwen? Chu Wanning was incensed. Do you not see that Tianwen is still binding it? This thing is extremely fast. If I were to release the binding, it would be gone before I could even lash it. More and more corpses swarmed around Moran and Chu Wanning. As Moran purged them, he kept an eye out for Shumei in the crowd for fear of accidentally injuring him. A golden boy threw itself at Moran and bit him savagely on the leg. He cursed under his breath and flung a talisman on its face before kicking it into the crowd of corpses, where it exploded with a loud bang. Do you see Shumei and Mistress Chen? Chu Wanning asked. Moran searched frantically before finally spotting 2 swaying figures in the distance. I see them. Get the hell over there and pull them back, as far away as you can. Got it, Moran answered, then paused. What are you going to do? I can't lift my other arm to summon another weapon, so I'll have to use Tianwen, Chu Wanning said, exasperated. I'm going to destroy this entire area as soon as I release the ghost mistress, so get lost if you don't want to die. End of the chapter. Page 193 for chapter 18. This venerable one once begged you. Excuse me. Excuse me? Also, Chu Wanning being hot about it? Incessantly? Grotesquely? Rudely? Hello? Tianwen had a wide-range killing technique with a simple name, Wind. Once activated, it obliterated everything it touched within a given area. Having personally tasted the ferocity of wind, Moran was naturally well aware of Chu Wanning's capabilities, and he knew there was no need to worry. He gave that pale-faced man draped in blood-red wedding robes one last glance before throwing the last of his exorcism talismans to buy him some time. Moran then leapt to the side, holding Shumei in one arm and grabbing Mistress Chen with the other to take both unconscious people to hide a distance away. Chu Wanning bore through the searing pain to force his other hand to move. Tianwen immediately lit up with a dazzling golden light, and he drew the willow vine back with a sharp movement. Once released from this restraint, the ghost mistress's face twisted, and it leapt up to head straight for Chu Wanning. Chu Wanning's blood-soaked robes danced like flames in the wind as he raised his hand toward the heavens, his expression fierce. He whirled Tianwen in the air, and its golden light began to intensify menacingly. The willow vine rapidly grew in length by several dozen feet as it spun into a golden vortex, drawing in everything in its surroundings. The ghosts, corpses, golden boys, and jade maidens, and even the snarling ghost mistress, all of them were pulled into the center of wind and instantly minced by Tianwen's breakneck ferocity. This technique was indiscriminately destructive. Nothing escaped its onslaught, even when the nearby grass and trees were uprooted. With Chu Wanning at its center, an incandescent golden storm of immense proportions blanketed the skies, and coffins and corpses alike were swept into the gale. It consumed everything in reach, all of it drawn into the storm and torn apart by Tianwen's swift spinning, all shredded into so much debris. When the dust settled, Chu Wanning was left alone in the middle of a barren wasteland. Other than his solitary figure standing amidst the ruins, shrouded in brilliant scarlet like a red lotus in first bloom, or a fallen haitong blossom, there was only the ground, covered in shattered white bones, and a terrifying Tianwen, golden light still coursing along its length. This sight made it pretty clear that Chu Wanning really was being quite considerate when he had whipped those disciples. Considering the preceding demonstration, if he had felt like it, he definitely could have instantly pulverized every single one of them at the platform of sin and virtue. The golden light gradually faded. Tianwen dissolved into sparkling stardust and returned into Chu Wanning's palm. He exhaled deeply, brows furrowed, and slowly walked toward his disciples in the distance, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. "How is Shumei?" Chu Wanning asked when he reached their side, still suffering silently. Moran looked down at the as-yet unconscious beauty in his arms. Shumei's breaths were shallow and his cheek cold to the touch. This scene was far too familiar. A nightmare that Moran had once been unable to escape, whether in life or in death. That time, Shumei had lain in his arms just like this as he gradually stopped breathing. Chu Wanning leaned down to press his fingers against Mistress Chen and Shumei's necks, feeling for their pulse. He murmured. "How has the poison spread this far?" Moran's head snapped up. "Poison! Didn't you say it was nothing to worry about? Didn't you say they were merely hypnotized?" Chu Wanning's brow was furrowed. "The ghost mistress uses the fragrance to hypnotize. It's a kind of poison. I expected only minor symptoms, not something of this magnitude." Moran couldn't speak. "Take them back to Chen Manor first," Chu Wanning continued. "It isn't difficult to draw out this poison. As long as they're alive, it's fine." Have we gotten actual confirmation, or am I making this up? Have we gotten actual confirmation that the reason, or at least one of the reasons, potentially the biggest reason, why Moran hates Chu Wanning and punishes him so severely, sexual stuff aside, and there's that whole aspect, but the other aspect, am I making this up, or wasn't it because Chu Wanning, he blames Chu Wanning for Shumei's death, for not interfering and preventing Shumei's death? I think that's literally all the context we have, but am I getting that right? Or was it somebody else, not Chu Wanning? Yeah? I've got it right? Yeah. Okay, cool. I just had to double check. Make sure, yeah. Because that's what it continued to feel like. But sometimes with my brain, I gotta ask. He spoke with a flat, indifferent tone. Even though this was how Chu Wanning usually spoke, in the current circumstances, it made him seem callous and dismissive. Moran was violently thrust back into his memories of the snowstorm of that one year, when he'd knelt in the snow holding Shumei in his arms as Shumei's life drained away bit by bit. Moran's face had been stained with tears, and he'd screamed himself hoarse as he begged Chu Wanning to turn around, to spare his disciple a glance, begged Chu Wanning to lift a hand to save his disciple's life. Or I could have just read the next paragraph. I have a tendency to do that. I ask the question literally right before the book answers it. But what had Chu Wanning said then? It had been in a dismissive voice with an impassive tone, just like now. And just like that, the only time Moran had ever knelt and begged in his life, he had been refused. Oh! Right. This venerable one once begged you to save his crush, and then you didn't. Dying to know Chu Wanning's side of all this. Amidst the falling snow, the person in Moran's arms had gradually grown cold, like the snowflakes that had fallen on his shoulders and clung to his eyelashes. That day, Chu Wanning had killed 2 disciples with his own hands. One was Shi Mingjing. I don't think it's she, I think it's Shi. One was Shi Mingjing, who he could have saved but had not. The other was Mo Wei Yu, whose heart had drowned in grief as he knelt in the snow. Moran's heart was instantly overcome with dread, with viciousness, with unreconciled malice and savagery that slithered like a snake. The key word here being unreconciled. For an instant, he had a violent urge to close his hands around Chu Wanning's neck, to shed this amiable disguise and bear his demonic appearance, to turn into a vicious ghost from a past life and tear into Chu Wanning's flesh, ring out an answer, and exact his revenge. Revenge for the lives of those two helpless disciples in the snow. But when he looked up, his gaze landed on Chu Wanning's blood-stained shoulder. The bestial roar died in his throat. He didn't make another sound as he stared at Chu Wanning's face with a gaze bordering on hatred, but Chu Wanning didn't notice. After a while, Moran lowered his head to look at Shumei's pale face. His mind grew blank. If something were to happen to Shumei again, then... The person in his arms abruptly broke into a coughing fit. Moran startled, heart quivering. Shumei slowly opened his eyes and murmured in a weak, feeble voice, Run? Yes, it's me. Relief and joy washed away all of Moran's anxieties. His eyes opened wide as he pressed a hand to Shumei's cold cheek, eyes flickering over him. Shumei, how are you feeling? Does anything hurt? Shumei smiled faintly, features soft. He looked around. How did we get here? Did I pass out? Out, Shizun, he coughed. This disciple wasn't competent. This disciple... Don't speak. Chu Wanning fed Shumei a pill. Since you're awake, hold this poison-cleansing pill in your mouth. Don't swallow it. Shumei did so obediently, then startled, even more color draining from his pale face. Shizun, how did you get injured? You're covered in blood. Chu Wanning answered in that same infuriatingly flat and indifferent tone. It's nothing. He stood and glanced at Moran. You, figure out a way to take them back to the Chen Manor. Now that Shumei was awake, Moran's dejection had completely dissipated. He nodded amenably. All right. I'm going to head back first. There's something I need to ask the Chen family. Chu Wanning turned and left. He just has to be hot and mysterious, doesn't he? When he faced the boundless night, with nothing but withered grass in all directions, he finally couldn't hold it in anymore. He furrowed his brow, letting the pain show on his face. His entire shoulder had been pierced by 5 claws, the flesh and tendons torn. The ghost mistress had cut him deep, down to the bone. However much he might have feigned composure to brave it, even sealing the veins so that he wouldn't pass out from blood loss, he was still only human. He still felt pain. But so what if it hurt? He walked, one foot in front of the other, wedding robes fluttering in the air. All these years, everyone had respected him, feared him, but never had anyone dared to stand by his side. Never had anyone concerned themselves with his well-being. He had long since grown used to this. You hung of the night sky, the Beidou immortal, unloved from head to toe, uncared for whether alive, dead, sick, or suffering. It seemed like he had never needed another support, even from birth, never needed anything to depend on, never needed anyone for company. So there was no need to say it hurt, and even less point in crying. He would just go back and dress the injury himself, cut away the torn and dead flesh, and apply some salve. It would be fine. It didn't matter that no one cared about him. He'd come this far alone anyway. Things had been going fine for all these years. He could take care of himself. Chu Wanning arrived at the gates to the Chen Manor, but before he could step into the yard, a burst of shrill screams came from within. I mean, if you want me to instantly and, deeply empathize, sympathize, and love a character, sure. Make him just terribly, horrifically, sadly alone. Yeah, that's fine. Hang on. Oh, God. Oh. Damn. Oh, no. No. That's definitely not what I mean when I say take care of yourself. Absolutely the fuck not. Just in case that wasn't totally and entirely clear, that is so not what I mean. Whew. Chu Wanning. I already read that. I'm still so fucking. I'm alright. Heedless of his wounds ripping open, Chu Wanning rushed inside, only to see Madame Chen with a head of disheveled hair and both eyes closed, chasing her son and husband all over the place. Only the young daughter of the Chen family was spared. She stood nervously to the side, small body cowering in fear and shaking uncontrollably. Sorry, I'm making a note here. At the sight of Chu Wanning, Landlord Chen and his youngest son threw themselves at him with terrified cries. Daozhong, save us! Chu Wanning shielded them behind his body, gaze sweeping over Madame Chen's closed eyes. Didn't I say to keep your eyes on her and make sure she didn't fall asleep? He berated them. We couldn't watch her the whole time. My wife's health is frail, so she usually goes to sleep early. After you left, she tried to stay awake at first, but then she dozed off and started going berserk. She was yelling something. Landlord Chen cowered behind Chu Wanning, shaking, and completely failed to notice both that the Daozhong was wearing wedding robes and that he had a gaping wound on his shoulder. Chu Wanning frowned. Yelling about what? Before Landlord Chen could even open his mouth to respond, the crazed madam charged forward with her teeth bared, but the mournful cry that came from her lips was in the voice of a young girl. Heartless and dishonest, pay me back with your lives. I want all of you to die. Ghost possession. Chu Wanning looked at Landlord Chen and demanded grimly, Do you know this voice? Landlord Chen's lips trembled and his eyes darted this way and that. He swallowed nervously as he said, I don't know it. It's not familiar. I don't recognize it. Daozhong, please save us. Daozhong, please exorcise this ghost. By this point, Madame Chen was mere steps away. Chu Wanning lifted his uninjured arm and pointed at her. A bolt of lightning instantly struck the skies and trapped Madame Chen inside a barrier. You really don't recognize it? Chu Wanning asked dispassionately with a sidelong glance. I really don't! Landlord Chen cried repeatedly. Chu Wanning didn't bother wasting any more words. He flung out Tianwen and bound Madame Chen within the barrier. He really ought to have bound Landlord Chen instead. It would have been both more convenient and easier to dig up the truth. But Chu Wanning had his own principles. He did not the mention of a man having principles, and I just go, he did not frivolously use Tianwen to interrogate normal people. So, he skipped over the easy target to instead interrogate the ghost in Madame Chen's body. Interrogating ghosts was different from interrogating people. When questioning a person with Tianwen, the person would be unable to bear the torment and directly confess. But when questioning a ghost with Tianwen, a barrier would be formed with only Chu Wanning and the ghost inside, in which the ghost would regain the appearance it had in life, and divulge information to Chu Wanning. Tianwen abruptly ignited in flames, which surged along the vine from Chu Wanning's side all the way to Madame Chen. The madam shrieked and twitched as the red flames on the willow vine suddenly turned into an eerie blue ghost fire that burned from the madam's side back to Chu Wanning's. Chu Wanning closed his eyes. The flames burned along the willow vine to his hand, but the ghost fire couldn't hurt him, even as it burned up the length of his arm to his chest, then went out. The Chen family watched on with horror and apprehension, unsure of what Chu Wanning was doing. Chu Wanning's eyelashes fluttered lightly, both eyes still closed. A beam of white light slowly grew before him, followed by a fair-skinned foot stepping out of the beam as a young girl of about 17 or 18 appeared in his view. That was the end of the chapter. We're on page 201 for chapter 19. This venerable one will tell you a story. This venerable one has been telling me a story. What do you mean? Let me check. I'm going to check this chapter's length real quick to see if I should break now or later. chapter. It's about, yeah, it's about 12, 13 pages long. So since we're at a nice little break for a chapter, I'm going to take the break now. I'm going to go, actually, I'm good on tea. But I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick, stand up, walk around, get the blood flowing, all that kind of jazz. This is your cue to do so as well. Go grab some tea, go grab a snack, do what have you, go do a lap around the house, get some movement, stretch a little bit. And I'll be back in just a few minutes to start chapter 19. Alrighty. Out here for chapter 19, page 201. We'll see if we can make it to page 225 today. So, this venerable one will tell you a story. I am not on the right page at all. There you are. Hi. So, the girl had a charming oval face with fair skin, pleasant features, and large round eyes. She wore a light pink... Oh, it's not a Q. It's... Oh, Ruchun? Maybe? Possibly? I can see the word, I can hear her voice, and I cannot hear what she said. With her hair bound up, and her bearing was that of a new wife, innocent and inexperienced. She dazedly rubbed her eyes and peered around at the darkness surrounding her. Where am I? You are within the restoration barrier I have erected, Chu Wenning replied. The girl was shocked. Who are you? She asked, bewildered. Why is it pitch black in here? I can't see you. Who's speaking? Have you forgotten? You're already dead, Chu Wenning said. The girl's eyes widened. I'm already... Gradually, her memories came back to her. She lowered her head and pressed her hands to her chest. There was no heartbeat there. She let out a soft sound of understanding and murmured, I'm already dead. Only souls can come into this restoration barrier. In here, all hatred is erased. I'm not entirely sure how, but I feel like that has to come back somehow. Those who have passed, regardless of whether they've transformed into a menacing ghost or a regular spirit, will regain the character and appearance they possessed in life. Hence, restoration. Stunned, the girl was lost in thought for a moment, as if she was gradually recalling her past life. Then she abruptly lowered her face and started weeping silently. Do you have any grievances? Chu Wenning asked. The girl's voice was thick with tears. Are you Lord Yanlo? Or are you Bai Wuchang? Bai Wuchang comes with a... No, both of those names comes with a footnote. White impermanence is one of a pair of entities, the other being black impermanence. The two are dressed in white and black respectively and are subordinates of Lord Yanlo, the supreme judge of the underworld. They work together to collect deceased souls for judgment. Tianwen's power filled this world of illusion within the barrier, and the deceased who manifested inside of it would therefore converse with Chu Wenning. I entirely tried to skip that page. Did you see that? Holy shit. What the hell kind of ADHD? Are you here to bring me justice? Chu Wenning rested a hand on his temple. I am not Lord Yanlo, and neither am I Bai Wuchang. The girl wept softly. Chu Wenning remained silent for a while and didn't speak, waiting until she had composed herself somewhat before he spoke again. However, I am certainly here to bring you justice. At this, the girl looked up. Though her voice was choked with sobs, she exclaimed in both joy and grief, So you are Lord... Something about the L's in Lord Yanlo fucks me up. Apparently. I'm going to have to, 1, write that down, and 2, really run my mouth over that about 1,000,000 times so that I can say that without entirely tripping over myself. Chu Wenning decided not to clarify that assumption and instead asked, Do you know what you've been doing since you died? I don't know. It's not clear. I only remember I was very, very sad. I wanted revenge. I wanted to go after them, and I wanted to find him. When souls were first brought back, for a time they would be unable to recall a number of things, but that was fine. Chu Wenning asked patiently, Who did you want to find? My husband, the girl replied softly. Chen Bo Huan. Chu Wenning was taken back. Chen Bohuan, wasn't that the name of the eldest son of the Chen family? What is your name? Where are you from? Tianyuan's power filled this world of illusion within the barrier, and the deceased who manifested inside of it would therefore converse with Chu Wanning truthfully and honestly. Thus the girl responded, "My name is Lo Chen. I'm from Butterfly Town. Before I came here, I reviewed the ancestry scroll of Butterfly Town. This town only has about 500 households, none of which are named Lo. Who was your father?" The girl took her time to recall the details, and the anguish in her eyes grew more acute. "My father used to be a scholar here, a close friend to my father-in-law. Several years ago, he contracted tuberculosis and passed away. After that, I was the only one in the household." "How did you die?" The girl was taken aback, then wept harder. "I had no path other than death. They deceived my papa and made him leave behind his secret formula for the fragrance that could very easily have just been Papa. I don't know why I decided to go English Victorian child, but here we are. They also beat me and yelled at me, threatened me, made me leave Butterfly Town. I was just a weak woman. Where else could I have gone? I have no other relatives in this world. The world is so big, but where could I have gone? Other than the underworld, where else could I go?" Once the memories of her past life had returned to her, her heart seemed to brim with endless suffering and anguish, making her anxious to tell someone of it. Even though Chu Wanning didn't prompt her further, she slowly continued to speak on her own. It turned out that this Lo Chen had lost her mother when she was very young, and according to her father, she also had an elder brother. However, her brother had gone missing during some turmoil in the lower cultivation realm, and they'd never seen him again. Neither did they know if he was alive or dead. She hadn't yet reached her first year of life when her brother went missing. She had still been wrapped in swaddling clothes. Later, when she tried to remember this elder brother of hers, she had had no impression to speak of. Thus, the Lo household consisted of only Xian and her father, of only Xian and her father, and the two depended on each other to survive. They drifted everywhere before finally settling in a small house in Butterfly Town. Lo Chen was 5 that year. The eldest son of the house of Chen Bohuan, was older than her by 2 years. At the time, the house of Chen hadn't yet struck it rich. The entire family lived squeezed together into a small earthen cottage with 2 rooms, and next to the low wall in the small yard, there grew a tangerine tree. When autumn came along, the tree bore fruits, and the dense branches growing past the low wall peeked into the yard of the Lo family's house. Lo Chen would raise her head to look up at the branches dangling with tangerines like the lanterns lit for the Lantern Festival. She was an introverted child and didn't play with others. Instead, she would sit quietly upon her little folding bench, peeling soybeans while sneaking glances at the tangerines peeking overhead from the Chen family's yard. The tangerines were vibrant and enticing. Against the sun, it was easy to imagine them full to bursting with juice, tart and sweet. Lo Chen would stare at them fixedly, swallowing hard from time to time, her cheeks aching with hunger. Even so, she never once extended her hand to pick them. Her father was a mediocre and ineffectual scholar who had failed the civil exams. However, he hadn't failed in the upkeep of his dignity and integrity. In fact, the soured scholar was probably a bit broken in the head. He was constantly telling his daughter to be a gentleman. By the age of 3, Lo Chen already knew that morality ought not be corrupted by wealth, and integrity ought not be compromised by poverty. Shit. At 3? She might have looked, but her hands never came within an inch of those tangerines so close within reach. One night, taking advantage of the moonlight, Lo Chen sat in the yard to wash clothes, huffing and puffing as she worked. Her father's health wasn't great, and he'd long since gone to bed. Impoverished children learn to take care of their households early, and so the little girl had her sleeves rolled up, her thin little arms soaked in the wooden bucket, her cheeks puffed as she scrubbed with vigor. Suddenly, a rasping cough came from the front door, and a young man covered in blood stumbled in to glare at her. The little girl was petrified, so much so that she even forgot to scream. The young man's face was caked in blood and grime, yet his brows were strong and handsome. The two of them eyed each other, one big and one small, frozen in their places. Finally, the young man couldn't hang on anymore, and he slowly slid down a wall and into a sitting position. His breathing was laborious as he croaked, "Give me some water." Maybe it was because the young man didn't have the look of a villain, or perhaps it was Lo Chen own kindness, but although she was afraid, she ran inside and filled a cup, then brought it to the young man's lips. The young man didn't hold back either and gulped down the water soundly. When he finished, he wiped at the corners of his mouth, and his eyes lifted to stare at Lo Chen's charming face. His gaze was a little intense, but he didn't say a word. As he didn't speak, Lo Chen didn't speak either. She only blinked at him anxiously, staying at a distance she deemed safe, holding her hands not too close and not too far away as she watched this stranger. "You look a lot like someone I once knew." The young man's lips suddenly curled up, his eyes curving into crescents as he smiled coldly at her. With all that blood on his face to match his smile, he looked somewhat savage, especially the eyes, big and round. They just make people want to dig them out, poke them through with a finger, and swallow them whole, one by one. Okay, now the red flags are going off. Now there's a problem. Now I'm afraid. Such terrifyingly sinister words were so blandly and casually said, and there was even a little laugh to go with them. Oh, we should be running in the opposite direction. If you've ever heard a serial killer describe his crimes, like a real life serial killer describe his crimes, that's exactly what it sounds like. It is the most horrifying things you've ever heard say with the utmost casual tone, in a way that, even to my knowledge, you really haven't heard in just a film or a drama. There's something else going on there, and it I don't recommend looking up real life serial killers describing their crimes. I just did this one time as part of serial killer research because I'm a writer and I'm a little wrong in the head. It's fine. But just in case you were wondering, that's how that works. "Huh, what a smart little girl," the young man said. "Keep covering your eyes like that. Don't stare at me. Otherwise, I can't say what my hands will do." All right, can we start screaming for Dad, please? I'm so high-key nervous. Can we just start shrieking at the top of our lungs, please? He spoke in a northern dialect. Oh, I totally skipped a sentence. She's covered her eyes. Which, fair. Valid, 100%. He spoke in a northern dialect, with R at the end of some of his words. Moonlight spilled into the yard. The young man was licking his cracked lips when he spotted the tangerine tree outside. For some reason, his eyes lit up. His pupils flickered for a moment before he jerked his chin toward the tree. "Little girl." Lo Chen was silent. "Pick a tangerine and peel it for me." "Absolutely the fuck not!" "Get your own fruit." Lo Chen finally moved her lips to speak. Her voice was tiny and quivering, but she spoke without hesitation. "Dagaga, that fruit tree doesn't belong to my family. It's someone else's. I can't pick from it." That young man was taken aback. As if reminded of something, his face slowly turned dark. "If I say pick, then go pick. I want to eat tangerines, so go pick them for me right now." The last bit was growled aggressively, spat out from between gritted teeth. Lo Chen shook from fright, but she remained stubbornly where she was. The little girl had a soft personality, but her moral core was as unyieldingly rigid as her father's. "I won't." The young man narrowed his eyes, snarling at her. "Stupid little girl, do you know who you're talking to? If you want water, I'll pour you some. If you want food, there's some of that in our house too. But the tangerine tree doesn't belong to my family, so I can't pick from it. My dad says to take without asking is to steal. I'm a gentleman. Morality ought not be corrupted by wealth, and integrity ought not be compromised by pottery." In her nervousness, she misspoke and said pottery instead of poverty. This tiny little girl, face red and puffy, sputtered and stuttered out this passable imitation of her father's teachings. Somehow she got the words out, despite how, under the intent gaze of that young man, she was quaking so hard that her knees knocked against each other. That young man was silent. If the situation had been any different, hearing "to take without asking is to steal" morality ought not be corrupted by wealth, and integrity ought not be compromised by poverty, and "I'm a gentleman" from the mouth of a kid, and a little girl at that, he really wouldn't have been able to hold back his laughter. But he couldn't laugh. Instead, a violent, soaring anger trampled through his chest like so many horses, stomping on his heart. "I hate people like you the most, the so-called—" Holding onto the wall, he shakily rose to his feet, words squeezing out from between his lips. "Philanthropists, gentlemen, heroes, virtuous people." Under the terrified gaze of Lo Chen, he painstakingly stumbled over to the tangerine tree on his injured foot. He raised his head, sniffing at the scent of tangerines with greedy yearning. Then a hateful crimson... I'm just so anxious. Then a hateful crimson flashed within his eyes, and before Lo Chen knew what was happening, he'd climbed onto that tree and started violently shaking it, kicking it, knocking at it, and beating it. Whole branches of tangerines were soundly shaken off the tree. They tumbled to the ground, rolling to the side. The smile of that young man was twisted as he yelled recklessly, "So much for to take without asking is to steal! So much for morality ought not be corrupted by wealth! So much for strength is not to be exploited! Dagaka, what are you doing? Please stop! Papa, Papa!" Lo Chen hadn't wanted to call for her father. He was of weak constitution, a scholar with no strength in his body. Even if he came out, there wasn't much he would be able to do. But after all, she was a little girl. Having held on to this point, she was finally scared past her breaking point. "The hell are you yelling for? If your daddy comes out, I'll chop him down too." The little girl was terrified into silence, tears welling in her big, round eyes. The Chen family next door had gone to visit relatives in the neighboring village, and so none of them were home. There was no one around to stop this lunatic. The lunatic shook the tree until all the tangerines had fallen from it. Even then his madness couldn't be sated, and he stomped heavily on the ground, crushing many of the fruits. Then, with a sudden aggression and using a burst of strength from who knew where, he leapt up and flipped into the Chen family's yard, found an axe, and chopped down the tree in a few strokes. After, he flipped back over and laughed heartily. He laughed and laughed until he abruptly stopped and squatted down, spacing out. He twisted his head over and beckoned Lo Chen over. "Little girl, come here." "No. Just no. Just straight up no. There's no jokes, there's no big pun. Just no. No. No." Lo Chen didn't move. She stayed where she was, shuffling her little cloth shoes embroidered with yellow flowers. The young man saw that she was hesitating and softened his tone, speaking with as much kindness as he could muster. "Come, I've got something nice for you." "I don't want to. No, I'm not coming over," Lo Chen mumbled. But before she could finish speaking, the young man erupted in rage again. "If you don't come here right this instant, I'm going to go into your house and chop your dad into minced meat." Lo Chen shuddered violently and finally, little by little, shuffled toward him. The young man looked askance at her. "Hurry up, I don't have time to watch you wriggle around." Lo Chen drew closer to him, head bowed. When she was still a few steps away, he flung out his hand and yanked her over. Lo Chen let out a squeal, or tried to, because before the sound could leave her mouth, it was shoved back inside by an object. The young man had stuffed a tangerine in her mouth, unpeeled and unwashed, covered in mud. How could Lo Chen possibly eat a tangerine in just one bite? Yet the young man forcefully stuffed it in. The tangerine ripped as it was crushed against her, juice and mud smeared over half her face. The lunatic was cackling, squishing the fruit on her mouth, trying to shove it past her tightly shut lips. "Aren't you a gentleman? Weren't you not going to steal? Then what are you eating right now, huh? What are you eating right now?" "No, I don't want it." "Oh, Papa," Lo Chen whimpered. "Oh, well, there's just lovely art about this." "Swallow it." The young man's eyes curved into slits, and he stuffed the last bit of fruit into Lo Chen mouth. His eyes shone darkly, and his voice was chilling and cold. "Swallow the damn thing." The young man watched Lo Chen as she was forced to swallow the tangerine, sobs choking from her throat as she weakly cried for her father. He was quiet for a moment, then smiled. That smile was more terrifying than his prior savage expression. He ruffled Lo Chen hair, satisfied. Why call for your papa? He said warmly as he continued to squat there. Shouldn't you call for your dogaga? Is the tangerine your gaga gave you sweet? Is it good? Then he picked up another one from the ground. This time he didn't try to force it into her mouth. Instead, he attentively peeled off the skin, even picking off the white fibers sticking to the flesh, before he wiped his hands, pulled out a piece, and brought it to Lo Chen lips. He said with a chiding, gentle voice, If you like it, then eat some more. Lo Chen understood that she'd run into someone who was mentally disturbed. Left without any choice, she bowed her head and wordlessly munched on the tangerine that the lunatic passed to her. Its sweetly tart juice diffused in her throat, making her stomach turn over. The young man continued to squat there, feeding her tangerines piece by piece. He seemed to be in a good mood again, and he even hummed a tune. His voice was rough and coarse, like a damaged basket with a breeze blowing through its holes, fuzzy and unclear, but some of the words floated into Lo Chen ears. 3-4 drops of petal upon the pond. 1-2 cries of strings rang from ashore. Youthful years before crowing would be the best of years. Hooves light, horses fast. See the ends of the world. Little girl, he suddenly said. Lo Chen did not respond. He pressed his lips together and reached out to grab Lo Chen's little face with his hand. Let me take a look at your eyes. Lo Chen was shaking, but without any power to retaliate, she could only allow that young man to examine her eyes thoroughly, letting those bloody fingers rub over her brows inch by inch. Such a strong resemblance, he said. Lo Chen whimpered as she shut her eyes, scared that this lunatic would pick out her eyes the way he had the fruits, on a whim. But the young man didn't pick anything. He only said to her in a somber, chilling tone, Didn't you teach me the saying, morality ought not be corrupted by wealth, and integrity ought not be compromised by poverty? Dagaga has something to tell you, too. Lo Chen sobbed. Open your eyes. Lo Chen eyes were tightly shut. That young man laughed in exasperation. I won't dig your eyes out. Now open them, he said, voice hoarse. Then, do you think I won't be able to poke out your eyes even if you have them closed? Lo Chen could do nothing but obey. She opened her big, round eyes. Her long, soft lashes quivered, and large beads of tears fell from them. The fearful and pitiful look on her face seemed to somehow please the mysterious young man. He loosened the hand that was squeezing her cheek. It hovered in the air for a moment, then tenderly patted her head. He stared at her eyes intently, a trembling smile curling from the corner of his lips. His grin was 7 parts twisted, 2 parts savage, and 1 part sorrowful. He said, There was a man from Linyi whose heart died at 20. Then, done speaking, he turned around, and his figure slowly disappeared into the shadows. The only indication that this person had ever been there, a person who appeared in the depths of night all covered in blood, was the mess left behind on the ground. What? Why? What? Oh God, there's a part 2! That was the end of the chapter, and we're now on page 215 for chapter 20, but it's literally just this venerable one will tell you a story part 2. There's a second part to this in particular? Ooh. All right, there's a part 3. There's a part 3. Oh God, right, thank you, the art, so sorry. Sorry, that was a whole experience that I mean, it's not great art. You know, I mean, it's great art in that it was obviously done very well and it really captures the moment extremely well, but like, it's not pleasant, you know what I mean? It's not, you know, on the whole, the easiest picture to look at. Did it say part 1? Hang on. I know this is absolutely ridiculous, but hang on. Did it say part one? Ah, no, it didn't. Ah, it didn't say part one. It just came out of nowhere and says part two. The next morning, the Chen family. Oh, no, that's way too much of my face. All right. The next morning, the Chen family came back from visiting their relatives only to see that their tangerine tree had been chopped down, its fruits strewn across the ground. There weren't many families living in the area, and only the Lo family lived close by. When they recalled the way Lo Chen had looked gluttonously at the tangerines, they swiftly concluded that the tangerines must have been stolen by that unlucky child, Lo Chen. And not only had she stolen them, she'd even jealously chopped down the tree. A little girl is gonna... Now, granted, you're presented with the evidence that you're presented with. It's like you have to draw certain conclusions. But, like, a little girl... The Chen family immediately went to Scholar Lo, full of accusations. Of course, Scholar Lo wasn't about to take this kind of humiliation. He promptly called his daughter over and asked angrily if she had stolen the tangerines. Lo Chen cried as she answered she hadn't. Then she was asked if she'd chopped down the tree. Lo Chen continued to answer that she hadn't. And then she was asked if she'd sneakily eaten any tangerines. Lo Chen couldn't lie. She could only answer that she had. Before she even had time to explain, her father flew into a mortified rage and ordered her to kneel. He disciplined her with a ruler in front of the Chen family, and as he beat her, he said, "Daughters are truly worthless. You're so young, yet you're already a little thief. Shame on you. You're an embarrassment. No food for you today. Face the wall and repent for 3 days." Excuse the out of you. Oh, shit, no. No, Dad's on the shit list. Dad's on the shit list in a big way. Papa, it wasn't me. It really wasn't me. Don't you dare talk back to me. That's one of those things that we do to kids and teenagers that drives me nuts. Not letting them defend themselves. Like, there's a big difference between, a kid who's just standing there insulting you, which is what talking back actually is, and then there's a difference between they are trying to explain themselves and you're just like, why are you talking back to me? I'm just talking at you, and then you're supposed to accept whatever. Kids turn into adults. It's crazy, but it's true. You can't just deny their personhood until they're 18 and then expect them to turn around and be an adult. I'm okay. That's fine. Nobody believed her. Although chaos reigned in the lower cultivation realm, Butterfly Town was an exception. The residents of this town lived simple and honest lives, and nobody even locked their doors at night. And she claimed that a lunatic covered in blood had turned up in the middle of the night? Who could believe that? The skin on Lo Chen's hands was left raw and bleeding from all the ruler's strikes. The Chen family watched on unsympathetically. Only the oldest boy differed. He tugged on the corner of his mother's clothing as if he wanted to say something. But his mother paid him no attention. There is a theme running through this family? I'm okay. Left with no choice, he furrowed his rather comely? I believe it's comely little face and stood off to the side, unwilling to continue watching. That night, Lo Chen was too afraid to return inside, and she crouched under the roof of her house to miserably carry out her punishment. Her father being a scholar, theft was something he could not abide. On top of that, he tended to dwell on things and was nothing if not stubborn. There was no point in talking to him, as he would refuse to listen to reason. After a day of starvation, Lo Chen was beginning to feel faint. Out of nowhere, a voice called out softly to her, "Lo Mei." Lo Chen turned around and noticed a head with comely facial features sticking up over the earthen wall. It was the boy who had tried to plead for her earlier, the eldest son of the Chen household, Chen Bohuan. Boyuan? Ay. Chen Bohuan looked around, and after making sure no one could see him, he climbed over the earthen wall. He took a hot manteau. Oh, that's not how that goes. He took a hot manteau from within his robes and stuffed it into Lo Chen hand without any explanation. I saw you standing by the foot of this wall for an entire day with nothing to eat. This manteau's for you. Go ahead and eat it. Lo Chen was shy by nature. Although she had lived in this house for quite a few months, she had barely exchanged any words with the Gaga next door. Now she looked at him up close, and she couldn't help but back away a couple of steps, hitting her head against the wall with a thud. I can't take it, she stammered. Papa won't let me. He said... She stuttered incoherently for a while, unable to explain herself. Hi, your father yammers on about sayings all day, said Chen Bohuan. Don't mind him too much. Starving like this is bad for you. Eat up before it gets cold. The manteau was white and tender, soft and fluffy, still hot enough to steam. Lo Chen lowered her head and stared at it for a moment, and she swallowed her saliva with a gulp. However, she really was beyond famished. Thinking nothing of gentlemanly behavior this and gentlemanly behavior that, she grabbed the manteau and stuffed it into her mouth. In no time at all, it was gone. After she finished, she looked up with her round eyes. The first full sentence she said to Chen Bohuan was, I didn't chop down the tangerine tree, and I didn't want to steal anything. Chen Bohuan was taken aback for a moment, then he slowly started to smile. But none of them believed me. Under his non-judgmental gaze, Lo Chen gradually began to open up. Her grievances, like ice and snow melting, began to pour out. She opened her mouth and let out a wail, and she sobbed as she wiped away her tears. None of them believed me. I didn't steal anything. I didn't steal... Chen Bohuan patted her frantically. I know you didn't. You stood under that tree every day, never taking a single tangerine. If you wanted to steal one, you would have done it a long time ago. It wasn't me! Lo Chen wailed even harder, tears and snot trickling down her face. Chen Bohuan continued to pat her. It wasn't you. And just like that, the two of them began to grow close. Later, a murder occurred in a neighboring village. Rumor had it that one night a blood-soaked bandit broke into a house and demanded he be given a room to stay the night. The man of the house refused, and so the bandit killed the entire family. Then he'd casually slept through the night in the corpse-filled room, not leaving until the next day. But before leaving, he'd used the blood to write a long rant on the walls, documenting all the wonderful deeds he'd done, as if he was afraid that the world wouldn't remember the existence of such a fiend. The news spread like wildfire and soon reached Butterfly Town. After comparing the dates, it became clear this had happened on the exact night that Lo Chen had met that lunatic Dagaga. Scholar Lo and the Chen family were all left speechless. With the misunderstanding resolved, the two families grew closer as well. The Chen couple realized Lo Chen wasn't just cute with the makings of a beauty, she was also hardworking and sensible. What I'm not reading anywhere in here is anything about apologizing to the little girl. You know, for calling her a liar and beating the shit out of her wrists and saying all those awful things. I'm not seeing an apology to her anywhere in here. Considering their own family circumstances, it would probably be difficult to find a better daughter-in-law. And thus they arranged for an engagement between Chen Bohuan and Lo Chen. Once the two were of age, they would have a formal ceremony. Scholar Lo thought his daughter and Chen Bohuan were a pretty good match, and thus he happily agreed. Time passed day by day. If Scholar Lo hadn't had an interest in elegant things and liked to dabble in perfumery, perhaps the two families would have lived out the modest but content life they initially imagined for themselves. If there was anyone to blame, it was Scholar Lo for creating, even if accidentally, the 100 butterfly fragrance. The fragrance's scent was nothing special, being not particularly different from the ones commonly found in town. But it had a benefit that the other fragrances didn't. The scent lasted for 100 days, lingering endlessly. Because 100 Butterfly Fragrance held its scent for an exceptionally long time, it was exactly the type of high-quality yet inexpensive product that every household sought. Even so, Scholar Lo believed in the saying, "Everything is inferior, only knowledge is superior." Oh, God. Ugh. Okay. Uh-huh. He had created the fragrance, but he was unwilling to sell it, believing this would be beneath his dignity. However, although he didn't... Oh, sorry. Sorry, I was just going to repeat the line that really... Madame Chen tried to obtain the formula from Scholar Lo and encouraged him to open a store, only to be rejected. After a few attempts, Madame Chen didn't want to keep making a fool of herself, so she no longer brought it up. Nevertheless, deep down in her heart, she continued to keep it in her thoughts. The year that Lo Chen turned 15, an opportunity arose. Scholar Lo had always been sickly, and he contracted tuberculosis. After a few days of suffering, he passed away. Oh, that's terrible. I'm stricken with grief. As Lo Chen mother-in-law, even though she and Chen Bohuan hadn't officially married yet, the sentiments were as such. Madame Chen helped arrange the funeral, busying herself back and forth. Lo Chen was moved to tears. However, she didn't realize that Madame Chen harbored hidden intentions. Of course. While the madam organized Scholar Lo's belongings, she quietly swiped the formula for the perfume. That night, Madame Chen lit an oil lantern, full of excitement and ready to read the formula. After only one glance, she was left dumbfounded. Scholar Lo's writing was like a dance between a dragon and a phoenix. The characters were written in an elegant, confident, cursive script. Even after staring at the formula for half a day, she couldn't understand a single word. Left without any other choice, she could only quietly return it to its rightful place. After a few months, when Lo Chen was less distraught, Madame Chen invited the girl over for a meal. During their casual chatter, she unintentionally brought up the 100 Butterfly Fragrance. Lo Chen thought to herself, the formula has no use if it's just tucked away in the house. Madame Chen has always been kind to me. If she wants it, I can give it to her. Thus, she retrieved it from her father's possessions and even helped Madame Chen interpret the writing. Little by little, Lo Chen worked out the complex formula. Madame Chen was over the moon. Once she obtained the formula, she and her husband began to plan to open a fragrance powder shop. Of course, at that time, Madame Chen still treasured her kindly, sensible future daughter-in-law. The older Lo Chen got, the prettier she became. Even though her family had met misfortune, her appearance was 1 in 100. Quite a few young men in town had even begun to notice her. The longer we let things drag on, the higher the chances of complications arising, Madame Chen thought to herself. They needed to take care of this matter as quickly as possible. However, Lo Chen had just lost her father. According to the traditions of Butterfly Town, if one's parents were to pass, one could not wed for the following 3 years. But how could Madame Chen afford to wait 3 years? She thought it through and came up with a solution. One day, Lo Chen was braiding the hair of the Chen family's youngest daughter. She had a close friendship with this girl. Every day it was, oh God, I can never remember, Lo JJ this and Lo JJ that. The girl followed her around like a little tail. Madame Lo stepped into the courtyard and called Lo Chen into the inner hall. Shen, you and Bohuan are childhood sweethearts and are also engaged, she said. Now that your father has passed, you are all alone, and your life has been quite difficult. You were supposed to marry into our family this year, but the 3 years rule must be respected, and now you can't even marry. I was thinking, how old are you going to be in 3 years? Lo Chen lowered her head and didn't say anything, but she was clever and could guess what Madame Chen was about to say next. Her cheeks began to turn pink. Sure enough, Madame Chen continued, living alone is difficult and tiring. Why not marry into our family now instead? We can conduct the ceremony behind closed doors to keep it quiet from outsiders. If anybody asks, you can tell them you're staying with me and I'm taking care of you. This way you can get married without inviting outside scrutiny and criticism. Your departed father will be at ease as well. Once the 3 years are over, we'll have a proper ceremony in style. Is that all right? Her words all sounded like they were in Lo Chen best interests. Lo Chen, as someone who had no bad intentions and would therefore never imagine others did, naturally agreed. Later, through the sales of 100 Butterfly Fragrance, the Chen family became wealthy. They moved out of their old home and purchased a large piece of land in town. After much building and renovations, they became a large, influential family. Thus, Lo Chen lived a rarely seen existence, obscured in the shadows of this great clan. Everybody in town genuinely thought that the reason Lo Chen lived with them was because Madame Chen had been kind enough to look after her. No one knew that she was actually married to Chen Bohuan. Although a little unhappy with the state of things, Lo Chen only thought her mother-in-law had arranged things like this to avoid rumors, and that it was all for her own sake. So she didn't have any complaints. Moreover, Chen Bohuan treated her with sincerity, and the time they spent together was sweet and loving. Well, at least somebody treated her right. Somebody gave a shit. I got so incensed, I just knocked myself right off the... They were only waiting for 3 years to pass, at which point everything would go back to the way it was supposed to be. But the day of the official marriage ceremony, the day that Lo Chen was waiting for, never came. Oh, of course not. No, of course not. No, of course not. Of course not. Why would you have your son marry this girl when you're rich now and you can have him marry somebody so much better, i.e. richer than her? Why... Octagonal wins the chat for today with an extremely precise clue reference. Well done. I feel exactly the same way. The Chen family's business was flourishing, and Chen Bohuan was quite handsome. Soon enough, it wasn't just the girls in Butterfly Town who noticed him. Even the daughters of rich families in the neighboring villages started eyeing the eldest Chen Gongji. Bit by bit, Madame Chen's heart began to waver. When she'd arranged the engagement between the children years ago, it had been because they were simple farmers and weren't going to find anyone better, and so she had hurriedly laid claim to Lo Chen. I don't want to read. I don't want to finish the chapter. I don't want to finish this half page because I know what it fucking says. They're rich now. The son can do better. But she has this previous commitment. Gee, how do you get previous commitments in the form of a human out of the way? How do you do that? Who could have anticipated this reversal in fortune, that the Chen family would one day become so wildly successful? When she looked at Lo Chen now, she felt that the girl was not elegant or clever enough, that she was dumb and dull, just like her damned dry tree root of an old man. The more she looked, the more irritating she found the girl. She regretted it a little. Then the appearance of young I'm so fucking angry. Then the appearance of young Mistress Yao turned this a little into completely. Young Mistress Yao was the governor's pampered daughter, who was tomboyish and had a preference for martial attire. One day she returned from the haunt atop a fine horse, and she passed a fragrance shop where she stopped to look, but rather than picking out any fragrances, she instead picked out the handsome and hardworking young man inside the store. That young man was none other than Chen Bohuan, Lo Chen husband in all but name. Well, we're on page 225 for chapter 21, but it's a little after 5, and I have to go. So, part 3 of this venerable one will tell you a story. We'll have to wait until next Tuesday. You know, the shorter, I still can't speak. I'm too angry. The shorter chapters really do lend itself to finding convenient places to stop for a stream that's like nice and clear and stuff like that. But it apparently also means absolutely brutal cliffhangers at every turn. So, let's all take the weekend to just kind of stew in that feeling. Actually, no, I hope you have a lovely weekend. Go do something fun. Go treat yourself. Go relax. Go do what have you. And I'll see you on Tuesday for this undoubtedly shining and happy and joyous conclusion to the story of this dead girl's life. I wonder how it ends. I'll see you guys next Tuesday at the same time for more of ErHa. Please take care of yourselves, and not in the Chu Wan-ning way. And I will see you in a few days for more of this. I love you very much. Have a lovely weekend.